Released in 1987, Hysteria is the fourth studio album by Def Leppard and a landmark of 1980s music. Their obsession to reinvent the sound of rock through groundbreaking production techniques was achieved at a time of extraordinary personal adversity. It's a testament to their relentless perseverance, as together with producer Robert Mutt Lange, they redefined what was possible in mainstream rock. After wrapping up their tour supporting Pyromania, the band reconvened in Dublin to begin laying down some demos on a 4-track cassette recorder. Mutt Lange, who'd produced the band's previous 2 albums, joined them later on to help with the writing process. It was at this point he told them that he wouldn't be available to produce their next album, as he felt burnt out due to his grueling schedule at the time. Producer Jim Steinman was chosen as they entered Vicelord Studios in Holland, but it quickly became clear that he wasn't the right man for them. Used to Lange's incredible attention to detail, as opposed to Steinman's much more raw approach, the chemistry wasn't right. Engineer Neil Dorfsman remembers, "We only barely had drums and bass on 7 songs, and this was after 3 months of work." They continued to record with Nigel Green, who was Mutt's assistant. But things got far more difficult when drummer Rick Allen suffered a near-fatal car accident, which cost him his left arm. This inevitably halted the recordings. Rather than replace Allen though, the band adapted with a new custom electronic acoustic kit with MIDI pedals and began painstaking programming on the Fairlight CMI synthesizer. Allen's determination to play live and in the studio with one arm was inspirational but a technical challenge, and in the end helped define the album's unique sound. Mutt Lange was able to join the band at Studio-Def in Paris, but the process was anything but traditional. Rather than laying down drums and bass first, as in most rock recordings, the guitars were recorded first to a Lindrum click track, with bass and drums added last. This freed the band, and especially producer Mutt Lange, to alter arrangements whenever inspiration struck, since drum parts, normally set in stone on analog tape, were left to the very end. Hysteria's guitar sound is stuff of studio legend, clean, compressed and deeply layered, standing apart from the raw, overdriven sound of their earlier records. The primary weapon in Def Leppard's sonic arsenal was the Rockman headphone amplifier. Invented by Tom Schultz of Boston, almost all the album's guitar parts were recorded direct with the Rockman, giving them an extremely defined tone that fit the album's intricate arrangements. It was a practical choice. In a song with dozens of overlapping guitar tracks, the usual Marshall stacks would have overwhelmed the mix. They did later modify these Rockman preamps, but at the time of recording Hysteria, they were completely stock. Phil Collins' main guitar on the record was a 1978 Fender Stratocaster nicknamed Felix, which was a 21st birthday present from his mum. The guitar was fitted with DiMarzio's Super Distortion pickups and a Kahler tremolo system. Colin also made extensive use of custom Jackson guitars, such as the Black Crackle Jack, and occasionally Mutt's Charvel for certain things. Phil said, "I got my first Jackson, the crackle finish soloist with a Super Distortion, and that's what I use on the intro of Pour Some Sugar on Me." Steve Clark was primarily a Gibson devotee, using Les Paul Customs, modded with 3 pickups and a Kahler tremolo. He also had Gibson SGs and Firebird double necks. Although the Rockman was by far and away the sound of the guitars on Hysteria, Phil Collins said, "We used the odd thing like a Randall through a Marshall cab. At the beginning of Animal, I remember standing on top of the Galleon Kruger, cranked up just to get the feedback. I never used any pedals on that record, but I remember Brian May gave me a treble boost pedal that he'd made himself, and actually used on Killer Queen, which was totally cool. I used it on the rhythm parts of Run Riot, and it really did alter the sound, made it more aggressive. It was great to have Brian on the album, one way or another." Clark's effects included Boss pedals, the CE2 chorus, and DD3 and DD2 delays, Morley preamp boosters and volume pedals for signature swells and fade-ins, studio plate and hall reverbs, the EMT 140s and the AMS RMX 16, were used liberally, as well as tape delays, harmonizers, and Lexicon digital delay racks. The result is a blend of multiple delays, short and long, chorus and reverb on both guitars and vocals, creating the album's trademark wall of sound. The process for the drums was as groundbreaking as the guitar approach. Initial rhythmic cues were recorded with a Lindrum, but the final drum tracks were assembled with the Fairlight CMI. Layering sample kicks, snares and toms, snare sounds in particular were highly engineered. Detuned samples, white noise, Simmons electronic kits, and even the Eventide harmonizer feedback were stacked for thickness and punch. Rick Allen's electronic acoustic hybrid kit, complete with MIDI foot triggers, played a critical role in shaping the grooves. Mutt Lange's vocal production is legendary. Hundreds of stacked vocal harmonies, tracked part by part, layer by layer, created an immense vocal sound. A favourite technique was the Dolby vocal trick, using a Dolby A noise reduction unit to expand high frequencies for brilliance and clarity. Band members and even Lange himself contributed to these massive background stacks, which were then mixed down onto 2 tracks and synced to the choruses. The Neumann U67 was used for almost all the vocal recording on the album. If there is one prevailing legend about Hysteria, it's the myth that Lange made Colin and Clark record every chord literally 1 string at a time. In reality, this painstaking technique was only used for the bridge in the title track Hysteria. The aim was to achieve a super chiming, perfectly balanced arpeggiated sound. Lange, notorious for studio perfectionism, some might say insanity, coaxed performances out of the band by whatever means necessary, sometimes requiring dozens of takes to reach the desired effect. Songwriting and arrangements were frequently rebuilt from scratch. In at least one case on Animal, the band spent nearly 3 years and dozens of rewrites trying to reach the right blend of melody and groove. Conversely, Pour Some Sugar on Me was improvised and finished in a mere 2 weeks near the end of the sessions, demonstrating both Lange's relentless drive and willingness to seize spontaneous inspiration. Incidentally, the hand claps on this track were recorded 100 times and then detuned and EQ'd in the pursuit of creating a unique sound. Another Lange hallmark was saving the drums for last, allowing any musical elements to be changed at any point. This flexibility let the band continue adjusting arrangements right to the mixing stage, a vital advantage in an era when analog tape made such moves risky and costly. Lange brought an almost pop-level attention to melodic hooks, vocal harmonies, and rhythmic clarity, leading Hysteria to cross genre boundaries and dominate rock and pop radio alike. Engineer Mike Shipley remembers, songs would evolve, and he wanted to have control until the last minute of what the feel was going to be. Rather than commit to the drums and have to recut them, he thought this was a better way to do it. I don't think anyone had done it before, but we decided to give it a shot, as scary as it was, and we just went on blind faith. It was more about being able to change the arrangements at the last minute, which was very important to him. The 3-year sessions weren't just a technical slog, it was full of big moments. Buchanan's return to drumming with one arm quickly became stuff of legend, symbolising both the tragedy and the triumph. The band and Lange's team reportedly spent weeks sculpting a single snare sound, and took so long on certain songs that nearly every band member had at least one story of a nervous breakdown. The myriad of B-sides from the Hysteria sessions, including joke tracks like Release Me, are evidence of a group that never lost its sense of humour, even while lapsing into near madness working on vocal harmonies and guitar parts. There are stories of falling asleep at consoles, and technical staff learning on the job as Lange and the band stretched the technology to its limits. When the band eventually finished recording, managing director of Phonogram, David Simone, said at the time that the album might be the most expensive record ever made in the UK, and just to break even, they'd have to sell at least 5 million copies. They needn't have worried though. Hysteria became a worldwide phenomenon, selling over 20 million copies and spawning 7 hit singles. Its influence is evident, not just in the genre-defining production, but its blurring of rock pop and even the methodologies of electronic music. The album's perfectionism permanently altered expectations for what rock records could sound like. Mutt Lange's unique approach and technical innovations set a new standard of possibility. Even today, Hysteria stands as a testament to what is possible if you marry songwriting, technology and raw perseverance, plus a little rock and roll chaos and humour at the highest possible level.